Kuzu Zangpo and a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. I am Sonam Rinchen. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Gyaltsen graced the Friday Forum at the Royal Institute of Governance and Strategic Studies in Phuentsholing last Friday. His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty the Gyaltsen, graced the site of the Shivalaya Mandir and offered a ceremonial vase in Samchi. And His Holiness the J. Khenpo presided over the week-long Melam Chenmo, or the Great Prayer Ceremony in Trashigang. His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty the Gyaltsen, graced the Friday Forum at the Royal Institute of Governance and Strategic Studies. Former Foreign Secretary of India, Ambassador Shyam Saran, was the guest speaker at the forum, which is part of the ongoing second Senior Executive Leadership Program at RIGS. The RIGS was established as a royal initiative of His Majesty the King with the mandate to promote excellence in governance. His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty the Gyaltsen, graced the site of the Shivalaya Mandir located in the heart of the town in Samchi. The Mandir will be completed next year to mark the 60th birth anniversary of His Majesty the Fourth Druk Gyalpo.
Their Majesties offered a ceremonial vase which will be installed in the east column of the existing temple, around which a new structure will be built. The Shivalaya Mandir is being rebuilt upon the command of His Majesty the King as a gift from His Majesty to the people of Samchi to commemorate the royal wedding. His Majesty the King, who is accompanied by Her Majesty the Gyaltsen, also visited Samchi Higher Secondary School and met with the teachers and students there. Yesterday, His Majesty the King also granted an audience to the teaching students and lecturers of the Samchi College of Education. Speaking to over 400 teaching students in attendance, His Majesty the King said that it is so important for all teachers to remember that they cannot give what they do not have.
You cannot give what you don't have. This should be your mantra, your motto. You cannot give what you do not have. Anil, you cannot give good character to children if you don't have it yourself. You cannot tell children to be strong if you're not strong yourself. If you don't even know anything about the subject that you're teaching, how much of it are you going to give to your students? You cannot give what you do not have. It's so important for all teachers to remember this. What you have, you can give freely. As I said, to thousands of students who you can influence, who you can raise, shape, mold, especially during the formative years of their life, when they're very impressionable, when they look up to elders. You can make them into strong, good human beings. And later on, when you see them do well in life, you know that you've made a difference. Animal, that's the reward of being a teacher. But you cannot give what you do not have.
His Majesty the King also said that learning to learn is what teachers must teach to their students.
Learning to learn. And that is what you must teach your future students. Learning to learn. Because that's the whole point of going to school. You learn to learn. Because one textbook is not going to change your life. Having spent 10 years in school is not going to prepare you for the future. But if you have learned how to learn while you were at school, if you had good teachers who taught you these values and such disciplines, then you will survive not just in Bhutan, you will survive if you get dropped in America, in China, in Bangladesh, in India. No matter where you are in your life, you will always be able to find your way back home. And you will always do well under any environment.
At present, the Samchi College of Education has over 700 teaching students. Compiled for Karma Siring, Tandon Finso BBS News.
His Holiness the J. Khenpo presided over a week-long Melam Chenmo, or the Great Prayer Ceremony in Trashigang. Melam Chenmo began last Sunday. Our reporter Cheche says that hundreds of devotees attended the Melam Chenmo at the Tashigang Middle Secondary School. Monks from several Rabdis and Shedras in the Dzongkhag also took part in the prayer ceremony. The Melam Chenmo in Tashigang was first conducted in 2010. The debate and discussion on poor women representation in politics continues. Drafting a legislation designed to enhance women representation is one of the commitments of the current government. A two-national consultation conference on women in politics was held in Thimphu. Her Royal Highness Princess Sonam Dechin Wangchuk graced the opening ceremony.
Her Royal Highness Princess Sonam Dechin Wangchuk graced the opening. Women representation in the parliament took a downturn. From 10 women members of the parliament in 2008, the 2013 saw only 6 women in the parliament. The situation is no better in the local government with more than 110 women representatives out of more than 1,000 elected local representatives. A study conducted by NCWC cited gender stereotypes, domestic obligations and low self-esteem as among the 10 major reasons holding women back from stepping forward to take part in politics. Panelists at the first day of the National Consultation on Women in Politics highlighted mindset, traditions and culture that influence women's participation. Education and exposure were pointed out as crucial to break the social, economic and political barriers that prevent or discourage women from taking part in politics. The importance of creating a conducive environment to enable women to contest in elections were also highlighted. Organizers, the BNU and NCWC say the conference is to allow stakeholders discuss why only a handful of women take part in the politics and come up with options for that would enhance women participation in politics.
I think the main outcome that we're looking for is a way forward from this conference so that the discussions don't stop here at the conference. Our hope is that a task force will be formed and at the end of this conference we will be working on drafting a Thermalinka statement on women in politics in Bhutan, which will basically be the guiding note for NCWC and BNU as we move forward and try to facilitate the whole process in the drafting of the legislation, because the National Commission for Women and Children, NCWC, will have the lead responsibility in the government to draft the legislation.
She added the conference will also see discussion on the best practices elsewhere on quota legislation on women's involvement in politics.
It's not that this conference is going to conclude with a decision that quota is going to be introduced in Bhutan, but it's really about discussing, because there are a lot of concerns in many corners and we just need to really put all our voices together, express all the opinion, put the issue on the table and discuss it once and for all, and then come out with a reasonably doable format and a model for Bhutan, because I think we can, at the end of the day, we don't even have to call it quota, we don't even have to call it reservation, but it could be some sort of a positive discrimination, affirmative action to promote and enhance women's participation in, whether it is politics today, it could be governance tomorrow, it could be in all forms of public participation.
Serving women MPs and other women who contested in 2013 elections also shared their experiences. Tomorrow, the conference will see discussions on quota legislations and options for Bhutan and way forward to have more women participations in politics. Sonam Lhamo for PBS News.
With an aim to provide access to quality education, the Education Ministry, in partnership with Ericsson India Private Limited and Bhutan Telecom Limited, launched the iSchool project in Thimphu. The project is based on the global initiative Connect to Learn. It will allow some of the teachers to reach hundreds of students through video conferencing technology.
The Prime Minister Sring Topke launched the iSchool project at the Palkhel School.
Do you find it easy?
Prime Minister also launched the iSchool website where lessons from the iClass will be uploaded. Ericsson has arranged video conference technology to all the participating schools. There are 6 participating schools under this pilot project. Meanwhile, Bhutan Telecom has provided high-speed broadband connectivity to connect these schools. Following the launch, the Prime Minister at the press conference said the idea of iClass is to share the best of teachings with the other schools.
Let's suppose that we've decided that the quality of English is deteriorating. Let's suppose. Then in that case, we take out the best English teachers, identify the best English teachers and share them with the other schools using this. So that's one. So it's not to replace all the teachers. The other big idea is technology. Now there are two different advantages. One is we are forcing technology to work. Now we have fiber optic in 205 gigahertz, but who's going to use them? And if you don't use technology, it's as good as no technology.
Lunchin also added that while the 6 participating schools will have a live interactive session through video conferencing, the other schools can get access to the lessons through online.
Right now, if you go to a remote corner in Bhutan and show them a computer, they'll be afraid. But right now, but with this, using this technology and letting them learn through this technology, whether it is through the video conferencing and the participating schools, or whether it is through online distance learning, online learning. It could be a totally different school, but you have downloaded the information, it's available there, and you suddenly find out that Sir Amish is a good mathematics teacher, and the students they're preparing for their exams, and they want lessons from him. Yeah, and the only way they can get it, if they're not in the participating schools, is to go online, go to the computer lab, go online, download the lessons, and learn. So you are made, the interaction with technology is enhanced and you are made more comfortable. What happens there is the magic.
Lunchin added that he's hopeful that this iSchool pilot project will succeed. The Ministry of Education says upon the successful implementation of this project, they are planning to extend the initiative to remote schools across the country. The Director of Department of School Education, Karmayushi, said it will benefit the remote schools where they are not able to send the experienced teachers. He added while they are planning of expanding the initiative, they are also aware of the challenges they will be facing.
This optic fiber has gone out to almost 205 blocks. The challenge for us is how do we take it from those blocks to the schools? It's a challenge. And then the other challenge would be how do we actually sustain it? Because then there's always that recurring cost. And so, but I would think with the government really, and if you want to really go big on this, these things should not come on its way, I would think.
A memorandum of understanding for implementation of iSchool project was signed between Bhutan Telecom Limited, Ericsson India Private Limited and Education Ministry. Sonam Hamo for BBS News.
Food and nutrition security will be among the Agriculture Ministry's areas of focus in the 11th five-year plan. The ministry is eyeing to achieve 60 to 75% food self-sufficiency in the planned period. In line with this, the Agriculture Ministry has developed a comprehensive policy on food and nutrition security. It was endorsed by the Cabinet earlier this year.
A separate food and nutrition security policy was felt necessary to meet the country's food self-sufficiency targets. The Agriculture Ministry said the past efforts have not been so fruitful since there was no concrete policy on food and nutrition security. Now that a policy is in the place, the ministry is hoping for better results. Food security doesn't only mean sufficiency, it also means food availability, accessibility, quantity and safety.
So we are basically looking at enhancing rice production. Right now we are like 50% self-sufficient. So probably by the end of 11th five-year plan, we are looking at about 65 to 75 food self-sufficient in most of these commodities, be it rice. But if you are looking at minor cereals such as wheat, barley, buckwheat, we are almost like 100% self-sufficient on this, probably because people hardly consume these foods.
In terms of vegetable production, the ministry is confident that given the right investments, the production will exceed 90% by the end of the 11th five-year plan. The ministry says achieving 100% vegetable production seems a far-fetched dream, as some of the vegetables are not cultivable in Bhutan. The country's small size of arable land is seen as the major challenge in enhancing food security. The Agriculture Ministry is working on strategies to tackle these challenges.
We just have 2.9%. Now, how do we optimally utilize these land that we have? The strategy that we have is to have land consolidation and land development. Therefore, our strategy is now, if somebody owns 3 acres of land. If Mr. A owns 5 acres, now we like to put it together and make it into a bigger parcel where we can have maximum deployment of farm machineries, whatever inputs that we have to give into even irrigation, electric fencing, so we can have it together, because that's going to help us in saving, cutting down the cost.
On the nutrition security front, the Agriculture Ministry plans to coordinate with the Health Ministry to encourage farmers to cultivate nutritious products. Extensive awareness on the importance of consuming nutritious food will be emphasized as well. The Poverty Analysis Report 2010 of the National Statistical Bureau showed 5.9% of the population as living below the food poverty line. Going by this figure, the ministry believes that the status of food security in the country is good. Pemal Hudden, BBS News.
Untreated sewage in Thimphu city flowing into Wangchu is polluting the river, causing grave environmental concerns.
Open sewers of Thimphu's core town drainage system, it is clogged with waste of all kinds, emitting unbearable stench. The situation is worse during monsoon.
Yalamalu praho anasagdi blog ju dilani gina timname semigi sitigi namiso honimino sewa.
तर अहिले त यतातिर जान पानी थाप्न जानुपर्छ यता हामी टोइलेट छ नि पुरा गनाउँछ के पिसाबहरु पुरा छ
Bhutan This says nothing much can be done to fix the town's ad hoc drainage system since it was built a long time ago. Trompen Kiledoji said they are trying though to do whatever possible.
We are almost neck to neck with expenses and the budget that we receive. So therefore we have major priorities in the extended area where ADB and World Bank has been very supportive to do the new drainage, new water supply, new sewerage system. So therefore major resource has been right now allocated towards extended area. Whereas for the main old city area, we receive only limited budget just to overhaul and do the major maintenance of this area.
The drains, particularly in the vegetable market and the Changlimithang areas, are even worse. What is worse is this raw sewage is piped into the Wangchu, polluting the river. Laura Turley is a water expert working with the International Institute for Sustainable Development. She was in the country recently for a seminar. I caught up with her and asked about the repercussions of untreated wastewater flowing into the rivers.
The immediate impact is lowering what's called the biological oxygen demand, and that is harmful to the aquatic life, absolutely. And there's also the risk of thermal pollution, and thermal pollution is just when essentially warmer water being released than is extracted, and this also disrupts the natural ecosystem of rivers and lakes and can be detrimental as well to aquatic life.
Thimphu Trompen said cleaning the river manually is not possible due to manpower shortage. However, he said they are working on measures to prevent the wastewater from flowing into the Wangchu. The measures include improving the main sewers that are connected with the river.
We need to come up with a sewerage system in that area with the treatment plant, of course. So therefore, whoever donor or any agency comes to see us regarding their willingness to support, these are some of the priorities that we share with them, that we need a sewerage system for Motithang and Changangkha, because if we leave these two areas like that, I think maybe next 5 years the sanitation issue could be much more. The hygiene in the area could be deteriorated to that extent that it will be a real problem in future.
Until this happens, the wastewater will continue to end up in the Wangchu. Sherab Sangmo for BBS News.
A water quality assessment carried out by the National Environment Commission in 2012 showed the Wangchu at Babesa highly contaminated. The oil and grease from the automobile workshops in Olakha leaking into the river is being blamed for it. The contamination is also partly being blamed on the wastewater from the Lungtifu and Olakha areas flowing into the river.
Though fairly recent, the drainage system of Lontefu and Olakha areas too seems unplanned. In parts of Lontefu, wastewater can be seen overflowing into the roads. This plus water from the leaks in the pipes is damaging the roads. Some drains are filled with pipes restricting sewage flow. These sewage drains are again channeled into the Wanchu. Thimphu Trompen admits flaws in the drainage system of Olakha and Lontefu.
I see some default, or there is some flaw in the design, in a way that the drain had been casted at site, but it has not really good bonding with the base. So therefore, sometimes when the truck flies over it, the whole drain collapses. So this has been the design issue, and we try to rectify those in the other areas, but now we have to live with it and try to repair whenever issues happen.
He added works to rectify the flaws are underway. The sewage from the home is not the sole polluter of Wanchu. More dangerous pollutants come from the automobile workshops in Ola Wanchu. There is a treatment plant in place, but it hardly helps. The grease and water from workshop that lands in the drain is channeled into the treatment plant, but the rest that fall out of the drains flows into the river. Thimphu Trompen says it will procure an additional treatment plant to address the problem.
The number of workshops has increased. It is not able to cater to the demand. So we are now adding one more oil separator plant next to the existing one, so that whatever water outlet comes from the drainage will have to pass through that treatment plant, and then the oil will be separated before the water enters the stream.
Trompen said budget and human resource constraints are hampering their efforts to improve the city's drainage system. Sharab Sangmo for BBS News.
Even after changing the timings for smooth flow of traffic along the Thimphu-Wangdi highway, commuters are still complaining. With road widening works in progress in 3 different places along the highway, road is open only at certain intervals, and each place of widening has its own timings.
A total of 34 kilometers of the highway is being widened. The works began in January this year, and when the widening works are carried out, vehicular movement is restricted. It only opens at particular timings.
It is good for us when the road is being widened. However, it will be convenient for us if the road widening is carried during evenings and early in the morning. And if the vehicular movement is stopped at Dochula, I think the movement should not be stopped at Lamperi.
It is good that the government is widening the road. However, when we are stopped for 3 hours at Dochula and again half an hour at Lamperi, it is very inconvenient for us.
When the government widens the road, it will benefit us. But traffic closure on certain timings is quite a problem for us. It is even difficult for people who are ill or people who have to urgently get to their destination.
When I reach Dochula at 8 a.m., the movement is stopped at this hour, and while going to Gelifu, if we don't get to Sarbang by 6 p.m., we are not allowed to travel further.
But the roads department said the new timings gave more time to the motorist to commute.
With regards to road opening and closing timing now, I think we discussed in length among lots of stakeholders. RST, traffic police in Thimphu, traffic police in Punakha, then DO, then City Sella. And the initial timing that which we have decided was slightly causing inconvenience to the commuters now. So after 2 weeks, we decided and we switched over to the existing timing that we have at the present now. And initially it was only half an hour break, but now we have 1 hour now.
The works will continue until the end of June and will resume only after the monsoon. The Department of Roads has planned to widen 60 kilometers of road between Thimphu and Trongsa in the current plan. Pemaladen, BBS News.
Shopkeepers and residents of Pema Khalsil town are all smiles. The recent Zongkhak Tsokdu has decided to allow them to carry out renovation on their houses. They have been waiting for this for over 20 years now.
More than 20 years have passed since Pema Khalsil town came into being. But the town has not changed even an inch, especially the houses. They are old and in dire need of repair. Occupants, most of whom are shopkeepers, long wanted to carry out renovation on their houses, but the Zongkhak barred them from doing it. The land on which the town lies belongs to the Zongkhak. After over 20 years now, the Zongkhak finally has agreed to allow residents to carry out renovation on their homes. The decision was reached at the recent Zongkhak Tsokdu held earlier this month.
They are faced with many problems. For instance, they need to fix their toilets, and some of the shops are faced with space problem. The decision to allow them to carry out renovation was taken mainly to solve all these problems.
The decision, however, comes with a condition. The shopkeepers must, without any complaint, vacate the house anytime if required.
The houses were constructed a long time back and it has not been repaired since. And now they are being allowed to carry out repairs on their homes. But they do understand that they have a condition to fulfill. And that condition is they have to vacate the houses anytime if necessary.
It's good that the shopkeepers have agreed to move to the new town site in Denchi once it is ready. I think it's wise to have made this clear cut from now itself. If an agreement is not made, they may not agree to move later, seeing they have repaired their shops recently.
There are about 27 shops in Pema Khalsil town, most of it in need of a facelift. Compiled for Thiledoji, Sonam Hamo for BBS News.
Well, that is all we have for you this week. Join us again next week for yet another edition of Bhutan This Week. Until then, it is goodbye. I am Sonam Rinchen.